podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
Hi, this is Leo Laporte, and this is my Tech Guy podcast. The show originally aired on the Premier Radio Network's 200 stations strong all over the country on Sunday, April 5th, 2020. This is episode 1684. Enjoy. The Tech Guy podcast comes to you from Twit's LastPass studios. Stay in control when it comes to your company's access points and authentication. LastPass makes enterprise-level security simple for your remote workforce. Check out lastpass.com/twit to learn more. This episode of the Tech Guy podcast is brought to you by Stamps.com. Anything you can do at the post office, you can do at Stamps.com. Their on-demand postage means you can skip that trip for a 4-week trial plus free postage and a digital scale without any long-term commitment. Go to Stamps.com. Click on the microphone at the top of the homepage and enter the code TWIT. And by Worldwide Technology. Worldwide Technology's advanced technology center is like no other testing and research lab, with more than $500 million of equipment with OEMs like Cisco, and it's virtual, so you can access it 24/7. To learn more about the ATC and get insights into everything it offers, go to wwt.com/twit. Well, hey, how are you today? Leo Laporte here, the Tech Guy. Time to talk computers, the internet, home theater, digital photography. We got your smartphones. We got your smartwatches. We got all that jazz. Yeah, this is the show where we talk high tech. Phone number, 8888-ASK-LEO. Give me a ring if you want to talk about tech. Or just kind of talk, you know. We're all a little lonely these days. Give me a ring. You and I will chat. 888-827-5536. We have a website. Everything we talk about is on the website. TechGuyLabs.com. I'm happy to say that's free. There's no charge. Tech Guy Labs. It's always there for you 24/7. There's a pretty good search there, too, so you can figure out what's going on if you hear something on the show, or even look back to old shows. We also put audio and video from the shows there, so there's a complete backlog. This is, let's see, this month and next week, I think, is the 15th anniversary of the podcast network, the Tech Podcast Network I started in April. I think it was April 14th, 2005. Wow. I was watching a movie from the year 2000 last night, and and I think of 2000 as recent, right? Don't you? But it was 20 years ago. It's in this century anyway. Strange how that happens. Maybe you young people, you don't know. You say, oh, 2000. That was Lady Laura, you think 2000. I was just a kid way back when. To me, the tech era really began in 2000, didn't it? We had the crash in the late 90s and the early 2000s, and then it started building up. It's been 20 years since then, and we've, the dot-com bubble burst in 1999 or 2000, and now it's been all uphill until recently. It's all, and it's been an exciting ride, hasn't it? It's been interesting, challenging. Technology's not all, gumballs and kitty cats. It's there's some challenging stuff, but there's also some really cool stuff, and so that's kind of what I try to talk about both, because we got to know about the challenges. We got to we have to choose the right path. I think technology is pretty neutral, whether it's bad or good. It's pretty neutral, but it could go either way depending on how we, its users and its creators, choose to think of it. So and choose what to do. We're making the future right now. Big debate going on about, quote, responsible coronavirus surveillance. See, there's some interesting things. One of the things technology can do is make it possible to monitor people, to make sure there's social distancing. Even, and they've done this in China and some other countries, use information from things like Google, and your smartphone to say, oh, here's who you had, if you got it, oh, let's see who you had contact with over the last month or 2 weeks or whatever, and then those people can be notified. This is a really valuable tool. In South Korea, in Taiwan, and Israel, they're using smartphone location data to enforce quarantine, to see where there's hot spots, people gathering. That's not good. Having Rona pirate parties or whatever. Moscow police say they've used face recognition to snag 200 quarantine violators. Face recognition. Now, we know who you are, too. We know not only that you're not keeping distance, we know who you are. Palantir, which is a kind of creepy company here in the U.S., is helping Britain's National Health Service track infections. In Singapore and Poland and Kenya, MIT researchers are now pitching an app that would keep track of movements. The thing is, this is incredibly valuable, isn't it? If we're going to stop the virus, you can use a brute force technique, which says everybody stay in, or you can maybe use these technologies to figure out who needs to quarantine and keep an eye on them. In Mexico, Uber sent government authorities rider data because there was an infected tourist. So the tourist potentially infected the driver and 240 other people who'd taken rides with the same driver. And in Mexico, they were able to quarantine all of them because of that. Google and advertise. Lots of people know where you are at all times. I've been using a smart thermometer. I've mentioned this before. You've probably seen it on TV, the Kinsa Smart Health Thermometer. They gave these to schools for years. They've been giving them out as a way to track flu. So you take your temperature, but then it uploads it to the Kinsa servers anonymously, they say. I believe them. I don't think the thermometer, maybe, I don't know. Who do you trust these days, right? Does the thermometer have a unique identifier? Does it know who owns that thermometer? Probably not. They were just handing them out at schools and so forth. But the map that they get is hugely valuable. You can see it. In fact, they have a website that you can go. What is it? Healthweather.us. I think that's it. You can go and you can see it. And you can see their flu tracker. And it worked not just for flu. 2 million people have these. Actually, 1 million people have them. 2 million households, right? Because it's an average of 2 people in that household. So they've got really useful maps that you can look at, and you can see how it's going in your county, in your area. Healthweather.us. So it's, technology is being very helpful. And then, of course, the issue is, do we give up all privacy? Just say, hey, you know what? This is an emergency. Track away. And then if we do, which, maybe that's the right thing to do, once this is over, do we grab it back? How do we get it back? And what are the safeguards? What are the protections? Who's keeping an eye on this? All of this is important stuff to kind of pay attention to. Remember I said technology is neutral? But this is an example, perfect example. Technology can be very helpful. But we don't want to start honestly, as we did after 9/11. They passed the Patriot Act. They've renewed it every year ever since. 19 years later, we still have a lot of the, snooping, the spying that started because we were scared after 9/11. Do we want in 2040, 20 years from now, to say, well, remember back in the coronavirus days, remember how we, we're still doing it. We're tracking everybody who's getting together, keeping an eye. I mean, you using face recognition to know where everybody is. Do we want that? We gotta pay attention on it. So there's a couple of things. There's an article, good article in The Intercept, which is kind of a sometimes kooky left-wing blog, but it's also often got important news. And this is, I think, an important article. Came out 3 days ago by Sam Biddle. Privacy experts say responsible coronavirus surveillance is possible. And a couple of points he makes, and I think absolutely right on. Health officials should drive the data decisions, right? Not government, but health. The CDC or your state health authorities, they're the ones who should say, this is the data we need. Because, the government might overreach a little bit. Justice Department might say, well, we could also get other data. It's got to be justified, right? And you got to weigh it against the costs. Clearly, the data that's collected for this should expire after a certain point. Shouldn't be allowed to keep it forever. And you should wall it off. they're collecting the census right now. The census is going on in the United States. That data that census data is incredibly private data. Has to be walled off, has to be protected, can't be used and mined by other government agencies or even worse, by advertisers. We need that kind of same restrictions on the virus data that's collected. Census data, you can't, for instance, use it to put people in jail. You can't use it for immigration enforcement. You can't use it for tax collection. That's by law. Privacy safeguards, because otherwise, this is a treasure trove, the census stuff, and so would the virus stuff. So it's a good thing that we've got it, and I'm glad we have it right now. This might make it easier for us down the road to end the global shelter-in-place restrictions. And by the way, when I say global, I mean global, not just in the U.S., but all over the world, to ease up on those as long as we can track people who have infections and who they meet and quarantine just them. That's going to be very valuable. Otherwise, we all have to stay inside for another year. You don't want that. But at the same time, we gotta watch how that data is used, don't you think? 8888 Ask Leo. Let's talk. 8888 Ask Leo. I'll put a link, by the way, in that article in the show notes at techguylabs.com. Your phone calls coming up. Kim Schaffer's here. She's answering the phone. She's ready. She's got her mask on. It's okay. You can talk to her. It'll be safe. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. 8888 Ask Leo. Your calls coming up. Hello, unbreakable phone angel.
Good morning.
Good morning. Kim is the front line of defense. When you call in, you'll be talking to Kim.
Yep.
She prepares you for your appearance on national radio. Do you use spit to get those cowlicks down, or do you have a little...
little gel.
A gel. We used to do that in TV, You always have... Because the lights will catch the cowlicks, and it looks like you've got a glowing hair over your head. You don't want that.
How about makeup? Do you wear makeup?
I don't now. Even though we do video of this in all the shows I do, the podcast network. We've been doing video for many years, but that was the first thing I did when I got out of real TV.
Chuck the makeup.
Chuck them. I still have my makeup kit somewhere. I think it's behind me. I know all my MAC numbers and my blush and concealer and my foundation and all that stuff.
You know better than I do.
Hated wearing that stuff. Hated it. But you have to on TV because otherwise you get shiny. On podcasts, we have a different set of standards. Low.
Hey, I'm really enjoying Monday through Friday right now.
Yeah, no makeup.
No makeup. Yoga pants all week long.
So Lisa, because it's interesting, because Lisa's still working at home, my wife, but she runs the podcast business. But she's on, video calls all day. She's Zooming all day. In fact, we brought home, should show you a picture. We brought home, she has, as you know, in her office, about 18 feet of monitor in front of her.
Very big.
She's got the widest monitor I've ever seen, and her iMac all together, because she needs she says, I have spreadsheets, I have documents, I need everything open at once. So we brought that all home. She's set up in the living room with this giant monitor, and she's Zooming all day. And she gets dressed, she puts on a little makeup, she does the whole, because she says, I want to feel like I'm at work.
Yeah. I hear the best thing is to maintain your normal routine.
Yeah. Well, that's why I'm coming into the studio for the shows.
Yeah.
Because my studio, I'm the only one in it, so it's safe. There's no one in here. And I keep my distance from you guys in the other studio.
Yes,
we have two doors between us.
I don't know how this all got planned, but having allergies at the same time that this thing
is
going on
worst.
is like a big joke.
It's the worst. Because every time you wake up with a sneeze or a cough, you go, do I have it?
Tickly throat.
Do I got it?
Yeah.
Did I get it?
Yeah.
No, we're all good.
No.
We're all good.
No temperature.
We're all
no
good.
else.
We're all good. Yeah, I take my temperature every day. I have one of those Kinza thermometers.
Yep.
And they have a study with the University of California, San Francisco. So I also do a little questionnaire every morning.
Oh.
Yeah, with UCSF. It's kind of cool. I feel like I'm helping the world.
Well, you are.
Yeah, I'm helping the world.
One question at a time.
And thank goodness for Zoom. I don't recommend Zoom, but everybody's using it, so there you go. But thank goodness for Zoom. And, you could use Microsoft Teams or Skype or FaceTime, but all those are probably safer than Zoom. I FaceTime with my mom. I use Google Duo with my daughter. And my dad, I use FaceTime. So we're able to keep in touch with everybody.
I've been doing WhatsApp happy hours and Google Hangouts
Isn't that
happy
fun?
hours. Yeah.
This might be the future. We might have to.
It's not as fun as getting together with
It's
people.
not.
I need the hug.
No hugging.
I need the hug.
No hugging. Who should I talk to first
Well,
here?
because he's in Santa Claus, Indiana, let's go with Lee.
Oh, I love it. I didn't know.
I didn't know there was a Santa
I had
Claus
no
in Indiana.
idea. Lee in Santa Claus, Indiana. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Good morning. Or good afternoon.
Leo. There is a Santa Claus.
That's interesting. Is it a small town?
It's a relatively small town, well, pretty small town, but it also has the oldest theme park in the world there, and it's called Holiday World. It used to be called Santa Claus Land.
Oh. Is that why the town's named Santa Claus, or did it go the other way around?
No, there is a longer, more interesting story about the naming of it, but I won't go into that.
I'll refer people to Wikipedia.
Exactly.
That's what Wikipedia was made for.
It's actually 3 years, or the Holiday World is 3 years older than Disney World.
Wow. Wow. You have a Santa Claus statue from 1935, the 1880 Santa Claus Church, and the Holiday World and Splashin' Safari theme park. What can I do for you, sir?
Well, I have two things. First of all, I actually have an answer to a question. It was from Jerry from Hatfield, PA.
Yeah?
And I think it was last year or year before that.
Yeah.
Now, Kim, the call screener, said, "Oh, that guy," because he wanted to visit some sketchy websites without risking infecting his computer.
I remember that, yes.
And you suggested a Chromebook and so on.
Yeah.
And so forth.
Yeah.
But you actually could do it for free with just getting a live, our Linux live CD and running that in RAM, and it wouldn't write anything to his hard drive, so his computer should be safe that way.
That's a good idea. And then if anything goes wrong, you just make a new one. I don't use a CD. I use a USB key, obviously. And most modern computers will work. You boot to the USB key. You're running that's most Linux distros do that now. You're running a full version of an operating system with a browser and everything. But anything you do is limited to that USB drive. So that's pretty good. That's a good idea, yeah.
Now, if you want to be totally safe, you can disconnect your hard drive and just boot it up through the USB or anything like that. But now, my main problem that I've had for a few years, I have a modem, and I also have a USB printer that I would like to print through my modem wirelessly. The only thing is I can plug the printer into the modem,
right?
But I have to have a Windows-only program to print to it.
Yeah, that's a limitation. So some routers will have a USB port for an external hard drive. In some cases, they have a print server, but you have to use the software that comes with the router. I'm going to take the call off the air. We'll talk a little bit about what we can do. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Sam's coming up to talk cars in a second. Just ran out of time. So,
no problem.
So this modem that you're using has, or router probably has a special Windows program to do that.
Exactly.
Yeah. What kind is it specific to the printer or specific to the modem?
It's to the modem.
Okay.
It's to the modem.
What router is it? What model is it?
It's a pretty old. It's Western Digital MyNet N900.
Okay.
I have printers that I can go ahead hook up that have, I can hook up to the, with a Cat5 cable or something like that. But
yeah.
this one does not.
So that software is a print driver that it understands that it's going through a router. Most modern printers, you don't even have to use the router. They're just Wi-Fi.
Right.
And then you just join the Wi-Fi network, and that's really the best way to do it. But so I presume this older printer does not have that capability.
That is correct.
Yeah.
Good question, right?
Yeah, I mean, so there are open source drivers since you're a Linux guy, you know about cups. There are open source drivers for all sorts of things, and they're written by enthusiasts. What you are hoping is that there is an enthusiast who has that particular, cable modem or router, whatever it is you're using, and has written a cups driver for it. If they have, then it'll work on Linux and everything else, because cups is everywhere. So that's the first thing I'd look for is a cups driver. And the nice thing is the older the gear, the more likely somebody's written something for it. Cups.org And you know, Mac and Windows and Linux all support CUPS drivers. So it's, in fact, CUPS was originally created by Apple for Mac OS. So there's a really broad number of things it'll support. It's basically open source drivers, and what you need is a print driver that understands that router, basically.
Right.
So I would look by router brand in the CUPS database. They have a very large database, and I would not be surprised if there is such a thing.
Okay.
Yeah, because that's the kind of thing. It's not hard to write these drivers. It's the kind of thing some enthusiasts going, gosh darn it, I want to print. I have this funky Western digital thing. I want to print, and probably wrote something. Anyway, that's the only way I could think of if they only have a Windows driver. I mean, obviously you want to do it on Linux.
Yes.
You could use a VM on Linux, but that's no fun.
Would that work through Wine on Linux?
Oh yeah, it might. I mean, Wine doesn't support every Windows program, but it supports a great many by emulating the Windows API calls. So, that's another good possibility. You can look in the Wine database for what it supports, but even if it doesn't list it there because it's such an obscure driver, it might still work.
Okay.
Yeah, if it's just a standard app. Is it an app?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, it's not an app. It's
a program, though, right? You run under Wine. Run under Wine. Yeah. Wine will let you run any program under it, and in fact, that's how that database gets built. Is everybody tries stuff and says, "Well, this worked, this didn't work, sort of worked." Yeah, Wine's another good choice. It's not an emulator. That's what it stands for. Wine is not an emulator, but it is.
Right.
That's a good idea. Yeah, CUPS or Wine. Boy, there's something going on in the Linux community, isn't there?
Yes, there is.
Hey, it's really nice to talk to you, Lee.
You take care.
You take care. Stay safe. Sam is a principal researcher at Navigant Research. He does a great automotive podcast called Wheel Bearings at wheelbearingsmedia.media and joins us every week. Staying safe, staying healthy, Sam. How's your temperature? I have to check before you.
So far, so good.
Before you
so
come
far,
in the room.
Normal.
I have to put my hand on your forehead. Good. I'm glad you're doing well and family's doing well. Do you know, one of the things that's a little challenging, some of the authorities, depends on where you are, in some jurisdictions are closing parks. They close parks around here. And I think that going outside and getting fresh air is super important. As long as you keep social distance, I think getting some exercise, walking the dog. Are people out and about in Ypsilanti?
Yeah, certainly in my neighborhood, my neighbors, are all going out for regular walks. There's a lot of dogs in my neighborhood, so I walk my dog a couple times a day, and we run into the other dogs.
The dogs are exhausted. They're getting walked all the time now.
Well, my dog was getting walked a couple times a day anyway.
Oh, okay, good.
And so but it's handy, having the dog on a leash, because that gives you a guide as to how far you should stay away. The dogs
that's a good idea.
Each other.
Let the dogs stay high.
Leash length away, and so that keeps us in pretty good shape.
Perfect. Yeah. Now, your picture of the day, Sam always comes in on a green screen, and I can see his video. I know you can at home, but I'll tell you, his picture of the day has somebody checking her oil. Something, gosh, I haven't done in years. You have an old Miata. You have to check your oil.
You don't really have to.
Yeah, no, there's no oil in an EV. But even in my gas Audi, isn't the oil change light enough? Do I have to check the oil?
Yeah, I mean, generally it should be fine. It's not a bad idea, at least every few months, to just pop the hood and check your oil levels, just to be on the safe side. When you pull out of the driveway or the garage, make sure there's no puddles there, just in case a leak has developed, and it happens sometimes.
She's, by the way, somebody's pointed out that because of the way she's positioned, she's putting the dipstick in your ear. How is the oil level in your head?
My head fluid level does sometimes feel like it's getting a little low. I have to adjust things a little bit, top things up. But for now, I think it's okay.
Good. So is that the topic of the day? Check your oil?
Well, that's part of it. Yeah. So there was an interesting article that popped up on motortrend.com the other day about how to maintain your car when you're not driving it much or at all. And for most people, this isn't so much of an issue. I mean, for me, this is a lot of stuff I do with my Miata anyway, because for several months a year I just park it in the garage and I don't drive it during the wintertime.
Right.
When there's salt on the road. But now with so many people staying at home, not commuting, there's a few things that you should probably consider, if you're not driving as much as you normally do, just to keep your car in good shape. So obviously checking the oil is one. But there's a couple other things that you probably want to address. I'll drop the link to the article in the chat. But overall, there's a few things that you should probably check, if you're not going to be driving your car much for an extended period of time. Number one is your tires. I always like to come back to the tires because they're very, ultimately the last line of defense between you and the road. If your car is parked for several weeks or months, then what can happen is you can develop flat spots on the tires because air will over time leak out of your tires. They're not completely airtight, and so your tire pressures can drop, and even if the pressure's okay. Because when you've got weight on the tires, they kind of distort a little bit, and they're not completely round. You can develop a flat spot on the tire, and so a couple things that you should do is check your tire pressure regularly, as we've talked about before. At least once a month, go out and check your tire pressures, and then if nothing else, just pull your car out, move it around, move it a couple of feet, or a little bit, just enough to keep the tires rotating a little bit. Just go for a drive around the block if you have to, and then pull it back into the garage or driveway, just to keep things in motion. Myself, because my car is not driven typically for about 3 months a year, 3 or 4 months a year, depending on the weather, I have a set of wheel dollies that have rounded cavities in them. So I jack up the car, put them in the wheel dollies, and then I can actually roll it around in my garage. But it keeps a round surface so that the tire's not sitting on a flat surface.
That's a good idea.
For what's going on right now with the virus, with people staying at home, you don't really need to do that. Just move the car.
If you moved it once a week, that'd be enough, right?
Yeah, that would be sufficient.
We used to say you put your car up in blocks and drain the oil pan, but you don't. It's not going to be that long.
Yeah, no. I don't. Even for me, when my car's sitting for several months a year, I don't drain the oil pan. But you do want to check the oil, make sure there's no, make sure that the oil still looks clean and everything, and make sure that that it doesn't look like it's getting diluted by coolant. If you have a coolant leak or something, and then the other thing you can do again is just go out and start it once a week. Let it run for about 5 or 10 minutes. That circulates all the fluids, keeps all the oil from draining down completely off the cylinder walls, and just keeps everything happy. So just run the engine for a few minutes every week, and that's also good for your battery. Because another thing that can go bad over time is your battery. Especially a lead acid battery, if the charge is allowed to decay and it gets too low, then it can actually damage the battery, and you won't be able to charge it back up again, or it won't be able to hold the charge. So one thing you can do there is you can get a Trickle Charger, and you can get these at Home Depot or Lowe's, or at most any auto parts store, or get them online. There's a couple of different brands. I use one called Battery Tender that you just plug it in, and it just slowly lets your battery decline a little bit, discharge a little bit, and then charges it back up again, and just trickle charges it. So it's not fast charging it or anything, just enough to maintain your battery and keep it in good condition. So those are a few things to consider, if your car is going to be sitting for several weeks. And also, don't use your parking brake.
Interesting. It'll flatten that too, probably,
just put the car in park. If it's a manual transmission, just put it in
it's
gear.
Not going anywhere anyway, unless you're on a hill.
Especially if you live in a humid environment, because if you're not using it, then you can get some rust build up on the cables and things like that, and things can stick. So
sounds like the best thing to do is take a spin once a week at least. Go out. We used to do that when I was a kid. My mom and dad say, "Okay, we're going for a ride."
Yeah.
I said, what?
Why? I do that now. With the Miata, like this beautiful sunny afternoon.
Put the top down.
After we're done, I'm going to go for a drive for, an hour and put it back in.
One extra tip you didn't mention, somebody in the chat room is saying rodents ate his windshield wiper reservoir, you might want to make sure you don't have any critters.
Yeah. Check for critters, especially like the plastic stuff. The insulation.
They love that. Rabbits
wiring.
love the insulation, man. They just chew right through
They
it.
do love to chew on that stuff. So go up, pop the hood, take a look around, make sure there's no critters living under there or in the vents.
I was surprised. I was walking around yesterday. I noticed the AutoZone was open. I guess car that's an essential business. Keep your car going and protect it. And this is the guy to do it. Sam Abuelsamid. He is principal researcher at Navigant Research. He hangs his hat at wheelbearings.media. Great podcast if you haven't listened to the Wheel Bearings podcast. Stay safe, Sam. Stay healthy.
I will. You too.
It's okay to drive with the top down. In fact, it's probably a great idea. Yeah, just stay
Especially
6
if there's
feet.
nobody else around.
Yeah, stay 6 feet away from the other Miatas. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Back to the phones right after this. Such a good idea, I think, to just get out of the house a little bit.
Yeah, just to get some fresh air. Parks are open around us. They tell us to stay clear of each other, and we've got a neighborhood park here. People go and there's a walking path around it, and people are making sure to stay. Give each other lots of clearance. So they're doing pretty good here.
It's weird because, like there's just the neighborhood parks. They have signs saying open for exercise only, and no, they can't get on the playground equipment. Those are all roped off. But I think the state parks are actually actively closed. Like they won't let you in.
That could be. Yeah. I haven't gone by any of our local state parks here. I think they actually may be closed now.
That's too bad. Those are so nice. All right, Sam. Well, stay safe. Thank you. I appreciate it. Somebody pointed out the young lady has black fingernail paint, so she doesn't have to worry about getting her fingers dirty as she's checking her oil. Yeah. Nowadays, cars seem so low maintenance, and there seems so little you can do. I just haven't checked my oil in years.
Yeah, I mean, for the most part, if you're driving the car regularly, then you can generally rely on that oil change reminder that you'll get. And most cars now, in normal driving will go 8,000 to 10,000 miles between oil changes. Right. Like we've had our current car for 3 years now, and we've had.
That's what's different. I drive
2 oil changes.
I tend to drive newer cars nowadays. When I was a young man, I would have to check the oil all the time because they all burnt oil. I'd be adding a quart every week or so. So those are the bad old days. Oh, now's a good time to mention Stamps.com, our fine sponsor. This is a good time. I am a huge fan. We've always used Stamps.com. A really great site for people who want to get all the services of the post office, which are really honestly fabulous, without going to the post office. Now more than ever, you don't want to go to the post office, but you can do it all right from your computer. You don't need a postage meter, you don't need special ink, you don't need anything. Just your computer, your printer, and Stamps.com. You could print U.S. postage on demand. You could print labels for any kind of packages. You get discounts you won't get at the post office, which is awesome. And I think I buried the lead, there's some really good news. Stamps.com not only offers services the U.S. Postal Service, now does UPS as well, with UPS discounts up to 62%. And I don't know if you know this, but UPS will charge you $5 if you're shipping from a residential address instead of a business address. Now we're all home shipping from our homes. If you're using Stamps.com, they waive that too. So this is absolutely the way you should start doing your mailing. And then you leave it on the porch, the mail carrier gets it, and it's safe, and you're going to save money. Discounts you can't get at the post office. 5 cents off every first-class stamp, up to 40% off U.S. Postal Service shipping rates. And now that they offer UPS, this is the full, complete shipping service. Discounts up to 62%, and you won't have to pay UPS residential surcharges. I have to say, Stamps.com makes you look more professional. I mentioned Lisa ordered some masks from Etsy. And if you're an Etsy seller or an Amazon seller or, eBay seller, you got to use Stamps.com. These masks came postage due $8.40. I had to go to the door and interact with the postal carrier. He wasn't wearing a mask. Give him money. Because these masks, the person didn't understand. She licked stamps. I have a picture of it. I'll show you. she licked stamps and didn't put enough on, and we had to pay an additional $8.40. With you always have the right postage. Never too much, never too little. You even get a USB scale, so you put the package on the scale. Stamps.com will recommend the best service for you for that kind of package, whether it's UPS or USPS Media Mail, and it'll print the sticker and you put it right on the package. You don't have to worry. You've got exactly the right postage. It'll even fill out the address. It automatically puts your return address, your logo. No equipment to lease, no long-term commitments. It's just a no-brainer. You save time, you save money, you don't have to leave the house. This is the time to get Stamps.com. Whether you're a small business sending invoices, if you're an online seller shipping products, maybe you're just working from home and you need to mail stuff. This is the time. If you've thought about it, now that you're home, you got to do it. And now that they have UPS, this is fantastic. It's now everything you need. All your shipping, professional looking, easy to use for you. You save a ton of money. Why wouldn't you do this? Go to Stamps.com. We've got a special trial. It includes 4 weeks of Stamps.com plus free postage and a digital scale without any long-term commitment. You just go to Stamps.com. This is the deal, though. You got to do this. You click the microphone at the top of the homepage. It's up in the upper right, that old-fashioned microphone. Type in TWIT. That way they know you saw it here, which is good for us. And you get all this free postage, plus the scale, plus the 1-month trial, Stamps.com. This is in the nick of time. And UPS now, with amazing discounts. Go to Stamps.com, click the microphone, type in TWIT, Stamps.com. You got to get this thing. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Who loves you, baby? Yeah, baby. 8888, ask Leo the phone number. Next hour, I'll talk a little bit about, there's been a lot of questions in the chat room about Zoom. I'll talk a little bit about how to secure a Zoom conference. Not a fan, but everybody uses it. I can't, my own company uses it. I can't get them not to. I tried to have a Zoom with my family members who are spread out on a Friday. And one of the members couldn't use it, couldn't figure out, because I had set up, I should explain. I had set up something different called Jitsi, which I'm a big fan of, jitsi.org. It's open source, it's encrypted, and you can run your own server. So I set up a Jitsi server at home. Now that's completely private. Nobody can see what we're doing. Not that that's important, but I just, I prefer it that way. But a family member couldn't figure it out. So we fell back to the default Zoom, which everybody understands. So there are some things you can do to protect yourself with Zoom, and I'll talk a little bit about that at the beginning of the next hour. But let's go to line 3 right now. We've got Alan on the line from Charlton, Massachusetts. Hello, Alan.
Hey, Leo. How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
Very good. I'm not that far from your mother's house, I think, where I am in Massachusetts.
You're not. And she's in Cranston, Rhode Island. That's the funniest thing about New England is everybody's, next door. You get to California and it's a little bit longer drive to go visit a friend. So,
right.
How are things in Charlton? Are they going all right?
Well, yeah, we're doing okay. My kids work in the hospitals in Boston. That's not quite as ER. One is an ER doc in the COVID clinic. So she's right in the front line.
She's on the front line. Well, thank her for her. Well, I know you do. Thank you for in a way you're doing service too, because that's a loved one on the front line. That's scary.
Yeah, and I'm an old guy sitting at home, and they want me to stay there. Don't leave the house.
That's right. They know. They know. They don't want to see Dad on a ventilator. That's a nightmare.
That's right.
Me too. I'm trying to. I took my life in my hands. My wife and I went shopping yesterday, but we took a lot of steps. We were wearing masks. We were sanitizing all the way. Hey. What a world.
Yeah, we want to keep staying around there, Leo, so just don't get sick.
No, I'm doing everything I can. And I don't want to get anybody around me sick either. So what can I do for you, Alan?
So I did a lot of web conferencing in my career. Last maybe 4 or 5 years before I retired, we were on web all the time. Basically, I worked home at least 3 days a week, sometimes 4 days a week.
Wow.
Conferencing all international companies are conferencing to India and Scotland and France and Finland and a lot of all over the place. California a lot, Reno. In fact, I visited you from one of my shops up in Reno one time. So, I'm used to a lot of video conferencing. And one of the things I used was the the Hue lights because
Nice.
I kind of took cue from your podcasting, and I had highlights like you have right now in your hair.
Lighting is so important, and in a good camera and good lights, people will go, "What are you doing?" They'll be blown away.
In red, like you don't want to be green, right?
No, that's the hardest thing is getting the white balance to look so you look healthy instead of ill. Yeah.
Right, and I use my Hue for that, right? So I had different scenes.
Nice.
I actually have multi-camera set up in my desk. I could choose from different sides.
Oh, you are fancy! Wow.
Well, they're doing it for 5 years. I had I was in tech. I'm in tech, right?
Right.
So
No, I'm doing the same thing. I completely agree with you. I have a switcher on my desk at home, so I can do. I can switch multi-camera. Pretty much could do this show from home, and that's the reason. In case we just want to be able to do everything we can to be able to be at home. Good. The Hue lights are a good choice. Yeah, because you can change the color balance. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I've watched Twitch for 15. The 15 years you guys have been around, I've been watching Twitch. So
thank you.
I got the ideas from you, and then I kind of copied them, and it was good for my webcasting at home.
Yeah.
Conferencing.
People go, that Alan, I don't know what he's doing, but he sure looks good. That's the funny thing. They don't really, they internalize it. They don't really see what's going on. They just go, boy, Alan looks so healthy these days. He's doing great. Did you lose weight? Get a new haircut? There's something about you, Alan. I don't know. I love that.
So now I get a message because I start, early adopter for Hue, and now they're sending me messages that on April 1st that Hue bridge that I would use anymore.
They're deprecating the old bridges, yeah.
Right. So I mean, okay. So, and I understand with software, some hardware. Sometimes they just want to sell new hardware. Sometimes they can't support the old stuff with the new software they're writing.
Right.
That kind of stuff happens. But how important is it to change the bridge, for the security side of it? Is it going to put me at risk not changing the bridge?
That's a really interesting question. Not that I know of. And it will continue to work. So I have an older bridge, and I keep using it. I don't see any problem with that. Go ahead. The light bulbs themselves are getting firmware updates, and there have been security issues with Hue lights. It's not that you're worried about a hacker changing your color from red to blue. What you're worried about is any IoT device, any device that you have, including your light bulbs that are on the internet. You want to make sure they're secure so they don't become gateways for a bad guy to get into your network. Now, obviously, with a camera, doorbell, some of those things are sensitive. You don't want them getting in those devices at all. But a light bulb is not too much damage they can do, except change the color or turn the lights out, and they're not going to do that. Who cares? But if they could use it as a gateway to get into your network, then they could do more harm. So that's the main thing. Hue puts out patches. I don't think the old bridge will prevent you from getting patches. And in most cases, I think you're probably going to be fine. It's more going to be an issue of if you want to use the new app, or new routines and stuff that they may not be supported. I wouldn't rush out and get a new one yet. You will be able to get a new bridge, and if it becomes necessary. But I don't think it's necessary for security now.
Okay, and I do run a VLAN on that. My internet.
Oh, then you're really good. That's the key. That's the complicated thing, but we've talked about that before, and our security guy, Steve Gibson, obviously, Alan, you listen, has this 3-router solution he recommends, which is so complicated, I don't recommend it. But on the other hand, if you have a VLAN capability, you can make sure that there's no conversation between the different virtual LANs. Put all the IoT stuff on the VLAN is a really good idea, as long as you can still control it. And that's the problem is, once you isolate all the IoT stuff, you can no longer use your phone to access it. You can't. So it's just the best thing to do is get IoT stuff that is supported by a good company, and they do security checks and they do updates. And Hue is one of them. I think Signify, the Philips company that does Hue, is doing a good job of it. Yeah, sometime you might. I don't know of any issues with the old bridge, except compatibility. I'll keep an eye peeled. You probably should too. If you see any security issues, you should be aware of it.
I'll be listening to you guys.
We'll talk about. Oh, believe me, Security Now. We will talk about it if there's a problem.
Yeah, definitely ask Steve about it sometime.
Yeah, I will. Yeah, yeah. And what camera are you using, Alan?
Well, right now I'm using an HP camera. I got a couple of, a couple of cameras over here.
Having a good camera, good sound, good lights, all the things that a television studio would do, for instance, makes such a difference, even on a low bandwidth connection like Zoom or Hangouts or Google Meet or Microsoft Teams. What are you using for software? What is Cisco or?
Well, I was using Cisco. Yeah,
Webex.
Cisco at work.
Yeah.
We did Webex. We also did Teams. So we had Microsoft Teams go in, so we using Skype. We're a big Microsoft company. Actually, was privileged to go into a Microsoft Azure center.
Nice.
Which is not every.
Yeah, nowadays Teams is free, so I think a lot of people should be looking at Teams. I'll talk when we come back about doing the best you can with Zoom. It's just become the default. They went from 10 million daily active users in December to 200 million in March. So they've really blown up because everybody's using it, and it isn't the most appropriate for, especially for groups where you want it to keep it private, like family groups or 12-step meetings, meetings with your doctor or a therapist. Those places probably should have something a little more secure. Alan, I appreciate it.
I have stuff in the past. I had to go over the ISDN lines and all that stuff in the past settings.
Oh yeah.
Now it's so much easier.
So much easier. In fact, it's almost too easy. Now you push a button and you're talking. Thank goodness we've got it, right? In the COVID days, it's so nice to have that. Alan, a pleasure to talk to you. Let's talk again, but don't wait 15 years next time. Well, hey, how are you today? Leo Laporte here, the tech guy. Yeah, it's time to talk computers, the internet, home theater, digital photography, smartphones, smartwatches, all that jazz. 8888, ask Leo the phone number. 888-827-5536. Toll free. From anywhere in the U.S. or Canada. But if you're outside that area, you can still reach us. Just call via Skype out, something like that. You should be able to reach us. Don't use Zoom to reach us. I don't think you can. A lot of people using Zoom. I mentioned last hour, they've gone from 10 million daily active users in December to 200 million daily active users in March. 200, and I bet it's more now. Zoom is a video conferencing solution that has audio and video. It lets you have multiple people, hundreds of people if you want, although that doesn't work all that well. I guess we tried to do our staff meeting, our all-hands meeting with just 20 people in Zoom, and it was a little chaotic. And it definitely doesn't work for singing Happy Birthday because everybody's a little bit different sync. But it is great for staying in touch with family and friends. A lot of businesses using it to get jobs done. My wife runs our businesses on Zoom all day. We have a paid account and all that. Zoom also has a free tier. Zoom, you've probably seen the headlines, though, getting a lot of criticism for its security policies. Months ago, I was very unhappy with Zoom. In fact, Apple had to ship a overnight patch because Zoom, it turns out the Zoom installer was installing a hidden web server on Macs. Even if you uninstalled Zoom, it stayed there, sitting there serving out the web, and bad guys discovered it and were able to use it to get into people's Macs and hack them. Apple fixed it faster than Zoom did. Zoom was very slow to respond to this. So that's one problem. There's privacy issues. The Zoom iOS app was sending information to Facebook about your call, about who you are, even if you're not a Facebook member. There are multiple security issues, and the biggest problem is Zoom bombing. You've probably read about that. There are a bunch of jerky jerks out there, who mostly kids, I think, but who knows? There could be some adults who just have the brain of a 5-year-old, breaking into Zoom meetings and saying bad words, naughty words, being incredibly offensive. It's very disruptive. It can be very disturbing. They're breaking into recovery groups. It's just terrible. And of course, if you're doing a 12-step meeting, a recovery meeting, a therapy group, you want to make that group public. You want people to be able to get into it. So there are a couple of things you probably will want to do if you're going to have a Zoom meeting and it's going to be public. The first thing you can do is have a waiting room. If you go into the Zoom settings under Advanced for hosting meetings, you can see Enable Waiting Room. That means people are stuck in the lobby before they can come into your meeting. They have to request approval to join. Now, that's more work for you, but it does mean that somebody can't just pop up in your meeting. You should also turn off screen sharing for anybody but the host. That's one of the ways people are Zoom bombing, is with offensive pictures, pornography, things like that. You can make it your default. If you go to Zoom settings on the web, you can make that your default. I would turn on Enable Waiting Room. I would prevent people from sharing their screen without permission. Only the host should be able to share their screen. You could still say, if somebody says, hey, can I share my screen? You can give them permission. But you don't want to have blanket permission. The problem is Zoom has been used for business for so long. The default settings in Zoom are designed to make it as easy as possible to use in a relatively, secure business environment. But not necessarily great now that we're all using it. And there are these stupid trolls, really pathetic people who are taking this opportunity to, I don't know what, be malicious. You can also lock a meeting once you're sure everybody is in it. You can close the door. Not a bad idea. This might be another thing a recovery group might want to do. Once 5 minutes after the meeting time, you can go to manage participants and then lock meeting. If you add the waiting room, that's good. People might come into the waiting room and say, hey, can I come in? And then you can let them in. Zoom still has this issue of, especially on the free tier, apparently spying on you. So one of the things Zoom has taken this, fairly seriously. I'm skeptical only because in the past Zoom has looked upon security as a minor annoyance, not as something priority. But they this week said, well, we're going to stop adding new features and we're going to start putting every bit of our effort into making Zoom more secure. The thing about Zoom is it's easy and it's default and everybody knows it. Everybody understands it. You click a link and you're in a meeting. So if you're hosting a meeting, it would be worth it. I'll put a couple of articles up. We did this yesterday, actually, on the show. A couple of articles up giving you ideas about what you can do to secure it. And there are alternatives. There are lots of them. You shouldn't believe it when Zoom says, for instance, you're encrypted end-to-end. You're not. You're not. But there are encrypted end-to-end solutions like Apple's FaceTime. Apple's FaceTime now supports up to 32 people. They all have to be using Apple devices. That's the only drawback. Google has a solution for both Apple and iOS called Duo. You can have 12 people in a Duo meeting, and I use that with my daughter. Pretty good. Cisco has Webex. That's another business product that's been around for a long time. And as with most of these companies, they've expanded the free tier during this crisis so that a lot of people can use it. We've used GoToMeeting for a long time. I think it's a little bit more secure. They have a 2-week free trial. Skype, of course, up to 50 people. Slack, 15 people. Facebook Messenger, up to 50 people. A lot of people use WhatsApp. Probably these are not necessarily more secure or more private than Zoom, but because Zoom is the one everybody's attacking because everybody's using it, you get some advantage by just not using the market leader right now. And as I mentioned, I've been playing with an open source, absolutely free product called Jitsi, JITSI.org. I like it quite a bit. I think it's quite easy to use. They have apps for iOS and Android, but if you're using it on a desktop or with a desktop browser, you can just click the link and you're in. There's no software to install. There's no downloads to do on a desktop computer. It's very easy. And it's really easy if you have some skills with, say, Linux to set up a server. It's really just a couple of commands to set up a server that's encrypted, and then only you can see the traffic. It is encrypted end-to-end with the exception of the server, and if you run your own server, that's even more private. So I actually was able to set that up in literally 10 minutes at home. I have a server running anyway. It was running Minecraft. Now it's running Minecraft and Zoom. Not Zoom, Jitsi, Jitsi.org. Another good choice. There are a lot of choices out there, lots of choices out there. And just by using something besides Zoom, you're probably a little bit safer. And there are ways to lock down Zoom if you want. And I'll put those links up at techguylabs.com, our website. We're going to go back to the phones, 8888-ASK. Leo, 888-827-5536. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. 8888 Ask Leo. That's the phone number for all our street fighting men and women fighting on the front lines. Man, I was really touched talking to Alan, his daughter's ER doc in the COVID unit in Boston. Man, that's like being on the front line in a war, isn't it? I'm so grateful for her service, Alan. That's just awesome. 8888 Ask Leo. Let's go to line 4 and say hi to Bernie. He's in San Dimas, California. Hello, Bernie. Hello, Bernie. Hello, Bernie. Oh, Bernie hung up. So let's go to line 2 and Bruce in Carlin, Nevada. Hello, Bruce.
Good morning, Leo. How are you doing today?
I'm wonderful. How are you?
Good, yourself. I was hoping you weren't going to do an Elon Musk with your mug there and put the cap on it and flip it upside down.
Are you referring to Elon demonstrating the Cybertruck and throwing a giant cannonball through the window? The quote unbreakable window? Yeah. You got to be a little I don't know, he says it worked in rehearsal.
Yeah.
Yeah. Poor guy, and then he had to stand in front of that broken window for the rest of the presentation.
Uh-huh.
Oh man.
So anyway, I've got a router setup question. It's a MediaLink AC 1200.
Okay.
And I'm just curious, what settings should I be turning on? Which ones can I leave turned off? That type of thing. Because there's really no information for it online, and I've downloaded the manual, but there's really no, I guess, direction on what I should be doing.
Yeah. I'll give, it's pretty simple. All Wi-Fi routers, there's a few steps to securing them that I recommend. And so you already know how to get into the router using your browser, right? You enter in the router's address, 192.168.something. And once you're in the router, one of the things you'll notice immediately is there's a password in the manual for getting into the router. You want to change that. You can't change the login. Usually it's admin, but you can definitely change the password. And there's good reason to do that because those default passwords are well known. So we're gonna change the login password. It doesn't have to be super secure because of the next step that I'm going to tell you, but it's still a good idea to make sure that somebody, if they somehow get access to the router, can't just log in and change your settings. You're also going to turn off, this is step 2. So first step, change the router default password. Step 2, turn off the, it has different names. Sometimes it's administer via WLAN or administer. You want to turn off the ability to administer the router from the outside world. There may be reasons you need that. If there are, you would know them. Most people, no. The only time you're going to administer the router is when you're inside your network. So turn off WLAN administration. That's a dangerous setting. There's really only 4 things. So number 3 is I recommend, but it's not required, you turn off UPnP, Universal Plug and Play. This is a technology invented by Microsoft because they wanted people to host games on their Xbox, their game machine inside the network. They want to be people to be able to do that. So they created a standard that almost all router manufacturers adhere to called UPnP. That means a device inside your network can configure your router. Can say, hey, I'm going to be serving games here, so open this port on the router and let people in. Now, that's fine if it's an Xbox doing that. And Xbox, you'll even say, oh, you don't have UPnP turned on. But it's really a bad setting because it also means malware. If you get malware on your machine, the malware can go to the router and say, hey, open a port for me too, which means inbound traffic. See, a router's a firewall. What a router does, it may not say it on the box, but it's a very good firewall because routing means incoming traffic is routed to the appropriate computer. So when you open a browser on a computer and start a conversation with a website, the router knows, oh, he's talking to Yahoo. So when I get stuff from Yahoo coming in, I'll route it over to that computer. That's what it does. If it gets traffic that wasn't established from inside the network, it says, I don't know who you are, and drops it, ignores it. That's a good thing. That's a firewall. But if you have some malware in your system saying, hey, if somebody knocks on the door and wants to talk to me, please let them, then that means you've just opened up your network to bad guys. So you don't want to use UPnP. And then the final and most important step is to turn on Wi-Fi encryption. And this is most important because that's the thing that keeps your packets from going through the air unencrypted. It keeps people from using your router. It's a very useful thing. You want to turn on, and most routers will support this, WPA2. There is a crack for WEP, the old version. So unless your router only supports WEP, or sometimes you have devices, the old Nintendo, what was it called? One of the old Nintendo devices would only work with WEP. But you probably don't. All modern devices support WPA2. So turn that on, give it a good password, and log in. You might want to change the SSID. This is a 5th optional thing, which is to name the router something besides Linksys or Immediate Link or whatever it's named. Because that just announces.
Neighbors stuff all over the place.
Yeah, and it's best not to use your address or your name. I used to use Dead Rockstar, so I had a Morrison and a Joplin, and so just it could be Star Systems, just something that but is not something that announces, hey, I got a system here, come on over.
Yeah.
Just for privacy. That's not required, but it's certainly a useful thing to do. So those, I'll say 4 steps with 1/5 optional. Those are all you really need to do. So I'll just reiterate, go through it real quickly. Change the admin password, very important. Turn off WLAN administration. Turn off universal plug and play, UP&P, and assign a good, strong, turn on WPA2 encryption and assign a good, strong password to that. And optionally then change the SSID, the name of the router. Those 5 things are all you need to do. Then Wi-Fi is as secure, in my opinion, as wired. It's no more risky. There is a crack. There are a couple of cracks. There's a new one just came out recently for WPA2. They require somebody sitting outside your house and kind of cracking away at your system. I wouldn't worry about them too much. They don't allow somebody across the world to get into your system. Only somebody right outside your door. And
where we're at in Nevada, really not.
You would notice if somebody were sitting out there typing away at a computer.
Well, I'd probably go sit and go have a beer and say, "Hey, what you doing?
What you doing? What you up to? You want some Wi-Fi? You can borrow it if you want, but you got to be nice.
Come on in.
Yeah, come on in." Some Wi-Fi routers, I don't know if the MediaLink does this, offer a guest network. That's
yeah. There is a setting in there for that. I was going to ask you about that too. Would we all have to change the ones that we?
No.
Live here in the house.
No. They can continue to use the guest networks only so that you don't have to give your main password to a guest. It doesn't in any way protect you. The guest is still on your network. So at least none of the systems I've seen, does the guest network have any isolation from the main network. So you're still, the guest, you want to make sure you trust them. But this way you don't have to give them the main password, which is nice.
Okay, yeah, because we've got it set up now to where the internet comes in to the Frontier router or modem,
right?
DSL,
right?
But I've got that bridged, and then this MediaLink.
Yeah, because it's better to use your own router than the company router, mostly because you can change all these things.
Yeah, and I've told people, time and time again that complain about Frontier service, which is, it's pretty stressed out here in the middle of nowhere.
I bet it is, yeah. But it's all you got. What are you going to do?
Buy your own router. Buy your own router.
That helps.
And go from there.
Yeah, that helps. That's a really good idea.
Yeah.
Okay. So now you're safe. When if MediaLink offers an update to support WPA3, you will want to go to that because, as I said, WPA2 has been somewhat compromised. It's a difficult attack, but still, WPA3 will supposedly fix that. They'll find holes in that too in time, I'm sure. But if in other words, if you can't get it, don't worry about it. But if you can, do it. Thanks for the call. I appreciate it. It's good to stay safe. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Chris Marquardt, Der Photo Guy. Hello, Chris.
How's it going?
Chris joins us. It used to be Hanover. Is it still Hanover?
It is still Hanover. It's still Hanover.
From the Viewfinder Villa in Hanover, Germany. How are things in Germany?
Oh, very good. I listened to you earlier. I'm, in fact, also running my own Jitsi server.
Jitsi's awesome, isn't it?
It is very awesome, and it's free and it's open source, and you know what they're up to. So I'm a fan, and it wasn't really simple to set up. So I have my own video infrastructure now, which is wonderful.
If you happen to have a server lying around, I had a Debian server lying around. It's about one line. It uses Let's Encrypt to make the certificates, so that's automatic. I did register a domain name specifically for it, so it makes it really easy to share the URL. You can make up whatever you want. So I can say, I don't want to say the name of the server because I don't want a lot of people using it. It's my home server after all. But, let's say it's leo.jitsi. And then so you could say leo.jitsi/partytime, and that would be the link. And people could just type it in or click it, and they're there. They're in it. It's wonderful.
And you don't even have to have a server lying around because you can, for just a few bucks a month, you can get virtual server somewhere. Fire it up in 5 minutes, and
so easy. Yeah. DigitalOcean or Linode. There are a lot of ways to do that. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. So today we have a review. I'm so excited.
Yes. We have the Layers assignment, which was up for a month, and we have a whole bunch of people who participated, who handed in photos. And of course, I've as usual, made a choice of 3 pictures that we want to review, have a quick look at, discuss, and then I will have a new assignment.
Lots of nice pictures. Thank you, everybody.
Yeah.
And, of course, this is all from the Tech Guy group on Flickr, flickr.com. And the Tech Guy group has, thousands of members, I think tens of thousands, and many thousands of photographs, so you'll know you're in the right place. And a smiling picture of me and the wonderful Renee Silverman, our moderator. I say that because soon we will be asking you to submit new pictures for a new assignment.
Yes.
But what did you select, Chris, as the photos worth paying attention to this time?
It was a tough choice as usual, but I have made a choice of 3. The first one is by Elvis Arrowwood. Title is Here to There. And what we're looking at is a landscape photo.
Oh, so pretty.
With mountains kind of layering into the distance, but then there's also clouds on top that are layering into the distance. And in between those clouds and the mountains, there are these like God rays of light coming through the clouds, volumetric light where you can really see the light beams coming through. And it's a great photo. I love it.
Nice.
Very good job. The colors. Elvis cranked up the saturation quite a bit, but still, I mean, you have the yellow in the sky, you have the blue in the clouds, you have this primary color contrast, which is always nice to look at, and yeah, those light beams in the middle give it a very nice focal point. So it's a frame going on, the clouds on the top and the landscape on the bottom frames those light rays in the photo. So good job. Wonderful. And the second one I chose is by Scott McLagan.
It's a good Scottish name, Scott McLagan. Scott, what did you submit? Oh, it's great. I love it.
It's a plant. It's a cactus from the top. And I like this for several reasons. Well, first of all, there's this amazing symmetry. We're looking at just one, what do you call that? A bulb of a cactus or something from the top. So you have these round concentric circles, shapes of the different, what are those, pins? Needles, I guess. And they are in concentric circles. There's a lot of going on visually, but then it's all very ordered. And that symmetry, rotational symmetry, mirror symmetry, all the different kinds of symmetry. And what Scott did is, and I like this in this photo, is Scott went in really close. That is a general tip. Go in close, because that just takes out the background and makes the subject puts all the attention to where it needs to be in the photo. So
beautiful.
Again, beautiful. Good job.
Nice job, Scott McLagan. I love it.
The third and last one is by James Aralus, titled Power Lines.
I think this one's my favorite. I really like this.
That's why I put it at the end, because it's really the one that stood out to me. So what are we looking at? James took a photo of, power lines, utility lines out over some city. And the beautiful thing, there's several nice things. I mean, in general, you'd say, this is a photo of some technology, of some power lines. It's not that interesting. But what makes it interesting is the time of day. It's probably around sunset, so it's very warm light. And the second thing that makes it beautiful is the direction of the light, because the light's coming at you, and that makes these amazing reflections in the lines and in all reflective features in this photo. You get this, it's very sharp. It jumps at you. It's a very, very crisp photo, but the crispness is almost only due to the light in the photo, and that combined with a little bit of mist in the background, which separates the foreground, the power lines in the foreground, so nicely from the background, makes this a winner. It's so beautiful photo.
Yeah.
There's something very serene about it. I don't know. So peaceful. Peaceful power line.
Peaceful power lines. So that's layers. That was illustrating layers. And that was a nice wide open. I liked that assignment because it was easy to interpret it almost any way you wanted. But we came up with some really great layers. Now what?
So I brought a new assignment, and as many of us will probably not be going out that much. In the alphabet,
don't say something like, travel. Yeah, it's got to start with an M. Okay.
It's got M where on the
Monuments.
alphabet. M is the next one. No, I cheated a bit with the task at hand here. It is my home.
My home.
Word, my home.
My home.
There's walk around your home. Go around, find beautiful light. You have a month, right? I'm looking at those in a month and making a choice. So you have time, walk around, find those interesting bits. Doesn't have to be like a big wide angle shot. It could be a detail from your house. Again, if you looked at the power line shots that we just, the power lines shot that we talked about, look for interesting light. That's always a winner. Light, and you will certainly have some nice light in your house. So my home is the assignment.
Nice. And you can take those pictures, submit up to one a week for the next 4 weeks to our Tech Guy group on Flickr. 13,000 members. This is kind of cool, Chris. We've been doing this since 2007. Mm-hmm. This group's been around a long time. 13 years we've been doing your photo assignments. Do tag it with TG My Home so we know it's a submission for this month's assignment. And Chris will pick 3 next month and talk about it. Maybe by then we'll all be out of our homes. Chris is no longer traveling, but he has some great photo workshops. You should just browse and dream. DiscoverTheTopFloor.com. Links there to his photos. His books, too. Help him out. Buy some books. He's got a great book on wide-angle photography and film photography. It's all at DiscoverTheTopFloor.com. And, of course, his great podcast, Tips from the Top Floor. My home, my home, my home, my home, my home. My home, my home, my home. My home, my home, my home. Nice.
There we go.
How fun that's going to be. My home. That'll be something.
I mean, we're all getting used to showing our home now to others with all the video conferencing.
Yeah, isn't that funny? You see everybody's house, even like big shots like Anderson Cooper and.
Do you know the comedian Jonathan Pye?
Yeah.
British comedian.
Yeah.
He has a series. He's now on his 3rd part called Lockdown, and where he plays a reporter, and he has to. In the series, he has to come up with a home story about his lockdown, and he hates doing it. So there's like a whole episode where he replaces the things in the background with a bookshelf. He puts all the smart books on the top. He goes and tries to buy a potted plant for it for the background. So he sets up his set, and he's really, really angry about having to do this. But
this is such an opportunity for some talented people. There's an Instagram artist, Meg Salter, that the New York Times wrote a piece about. She's a comedian. She's doing crazy little weird Instagram skits. I think there's such an opportunity here for people. Yeah.
As I said, us creatives, we will come out on the other side and
I think we all will. Yeah. The hard thing is for people in the service industry, to waiters and hairdressers and people who just can't work, and they're just gonna. I know so many people who are out of work. It's so hard. I feel for them. And photographers. A lot of our photography friends are honestly struggling a little bit. So.
Oh yes. Well, I've seen someone doing photo sessions now through a webcam. Like.
Yeah, why not?
Screen,
I have my trainer is using a FaceTime to get me to work out. So that's good. I mean, there's ways to do it. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. He's walking in the rain. Time to take some more calls at 8888 Ask Leo. If you've got questions about tech topics, I have answers. And if I don't have them, I can get them for you because we have a smart audience listening. Now let's see if we can get Bernie on from San Dimas. Hi, Bernie.
Thank you for taking my call, Leo.
Of course, Bernie. What can I do for you?
I've got 2 desktop computers. One of them is running Windows 10. The other one's still on XP for driver reasons. Okay, I have to run XP.
Yep.
I try to hook these things up through Microsoft networking, and they will not see each other. Then, by accident, I fired up my laptop, which is on Windows 7, and it can see either one of those computers, but they cannot see each other.
Well, there's so many things, Bernie, that could cause this. It's networking is a complicated process. I'm going to refer you to a site because honestly, I can't I really don't have the time to diagnose this on the air. It's so many things that could be wrong. I'm going to refer you to practicallynetworked.com, which is a really good site for home networking, practicallynetworked.com. Lots of tutorials, including tutorials on getting your Windows network to work with each other. I can think of no reason why an XP machine would not be able to share with a 10 machine unless you're using SMB 1.0, which is SMB's the server messenger block that Windows LAN Manager used and now is still a big part of Windows networking. A lot of people in the chat room are saying that's an issue because Windows XP does use SMB 1.0. Windows 10 deprecated that because it's not secure. In fact, Windows 7 deprecated it, but a little later. So you probably have an older version of Windows 7. So what's your suggestion? Let me ask the chat room. See, I told you this. I said I can't answer every question, but the chat room probably can. Now, they're talking about sewing machines in there, but a few people are talking about Windows networking. That's probably the issue. You need to use SMB 2.1. Here's the question of the hour, can you get a more modern version of Windows networking on that XP machine? Can you get it to do 2.1? What if you used an alternative to SMB? What if you used some other form of networking? Or, and Eric Duckman might have the idea, perhaps even though it's insecure, Windows 1, SMB 1 is still available in Windows 10 if you explicitly enable it. In other words, by deprecating it, they don't eliminate it. They just say, don't use this if you can. Help it. So I would look at that, too. There might be a way to re-enable SMB. You can see why this is one of those questions where you could try this, and then if that doesn't work on that and that and that, that's why I'm referring you to practicallynetworked.com. Anybody who wants to do networking, it's a fantastic site for every bit of networking arcana, including some of the topics we've already talked about, things like securing a router. But I would look there. They have tutorials, and I bet you they're going to have a way to get Windows XP to communicate with more modern versions of Windows, like your Windows 10 machine. Yep. In fact, we've already got a link. We'll put this in the show notes. Twisted Mysteries found a YouTube video on how to do it to turn on SMB 1.0 in Windows 10. So go to our website, techguylabs.com, and we'll put that YouTube video up there. See, I told you. Ain't nothing we can't answer. We have a great team. Thank you, team. Well done. Our show today brought to you by Worldwide Technology. My last trip for some time was earlier in March when we went out to St. Louis to see the Worldwide Technology Advanced Technology Center, the ATC. What a mind blower it was. They started it 10 years ago. Worldwide Technology is a trusted consultant and vendor for anybody in enterprise. But of course, as they consult companies who are looking to buy fancy technologies, these companies want to understand how they're going to integrate it in. They want to be able to play with it. Worldwide Technologies engineers would spin up pilot test programs in their ATC. Over the 10 years, it's just grown like crazy. It was in one building, then another. We visited one of the many buildings, the ATCs, and $500 million worth of equipment there from hundreds of OEMs. I mean, I saw everything from the big guys like Cisco and NetApp to emerging disruptors like Equinix, which is doing some really interesting things these days. That's all in there. And the engineers are using that to see how it integrates, to see how it works, to help set up something. This is why people love WWT. Worldwide Technology has been a trusted partner for so many companies over the years, in many cases more than a decade, because they know WWT is where they can go to get the answers they need to make sure their business is running right. When you're buying enterprise technology, it's expensive, And it's more than the money. It's risky. You got to make sure this is going to work right, so your business processes continue to flow, so your customers are happy, your employees are happy, so you're happy. That's what WWT is for. That's what the ATC is for. It's really an incubator for IT innovation. And what's cool is they have on-demand labs you can use 24/7. You don't have to go to St. Louis. In fact, all the information's online at wwt.com/twit. There's on-demand labs for things like Cisco's SD-WAN, lots of Cisco stuff, Cisco's ACI and Ansible. I love Ansible. Have you used it? Well, you can play with it right there in the lab. Hundreds of other labs representing all the newest advances in software-defined networking, network automation, endpoint security architecture, primary and secondary storage, and more. You'll learn about the products before you buy them. The engineers can spin up pilots in the sandbox so you can confidently choose the solution that's right for you. Make sure it integrates well with what you're already using. And I love this new lab as a service. They started this last summer. And of course, the timing turned out to be perfect because people aren't traveling to St. Louis to see this stuff. Now they can do it from wherever you are. There's a dedicated lab space within the ATC where you can perform your own programmatic testing using this entire $500 million ecosystem. And it's because it's virtual, you can use it anytime, anywhere in the world. I love that. They launched this last summer, and I have to say, you can see a lot of it online. There's white papers, there's studies, there's a lot of information, including the hands-on labs, that you can check out. But it really creates a multiplier effect of knowledge, of speed, of agility, anytime, anywhere around the world for all WWT customers. I think it's mind-boggling. And I love the engineers. We had so much fun. People came up to me and said, I started doing this because I watched you on the screensavers, and now I'm here in the labs. I said, you guys have the best job. You get to play with all the new stuff. They said, yeah, it's cool, isn't it? You can play with it too, though. To learn more about WWT, the ATC, to become a member of their growing community, I am a huge fan of WWT. I'm so glad we got out to St. Louis, and you will be too. And you don't even have to go to St. Louis. WWT.com/twit. Create an account. Get into the on-demand labs today. Get all that information that's there. Browse around. You'll be amazed. There's so much stuff there. WWT, they're famous for simplifying the complex. WWT.com/twit. Worldwide technology, delivering digital outcomes and modernizing IT infrastructure around the world. They are your trusted partner. You're going to love them as much as I do. WWT.com/twit. Bob, Garden City, Michigan. Hello, Bob. Leo Laporte, the tech guy.
Hi, Leo.
Hey.
It's a pleasure to speak to you and Kim.
Yes. Thank you.
I enjoyed your information on routers.
Yeah. The basic 5 steps everybody should do before using a Wi-Fi router.
Mm-hmm.
We'll put that list, by the way. We'll put those in the show notes. We've done it before, but I'll put it in the show notes for today's show so people can go to the website, techguylabs.com.
Yeah, I don't live too far from where your friend Sam works.
Yeah.
In Michigan.
Yeah.
And really, I enjoy listening to him too.
He's the greatest.
Yeah. What I'd like to do, I have calls that I would like to record after the call, right from the beginning of when the call comes in. And what app or what can I do with an iPhone so that it automatically records when I receive the call, or maybe I can hit something on the keypad to begin it?
Yeah, I mean, part of this is made difficult because of Apple. They limit how third-party apps can access information on the iPhone. It's easy to do on an Android phone. But on an iPhone, they don't allow third-party apps access to the microphone, to the phone app. So you have to use a trick. Usually, it means passing that phone call through a service, which you may or may not want to do, but that's what it's going to require. Now, remember...
Yeah, that's all I've found so far.
Yeah, because it's Apple's, as you know, Apple's policy is... No, we're not. And, I honor them for this. It's one of the reasons Apple iPhones don't make good Wi-Fi signal detectors. Apple doesn't give you access to the radio. You couldn't use their NFC chip for anything but Apple Pay until very recently. They're very restrictive. They say it's for security, and they're right, but it does limit what you can do. So there's no app you can put on your phone that will have access to that Apple phone call. You can only put an app like, say, Google Voice on that has its own built-in recorder and then make the phone call and take incoming calls through Google Voice, not through the Apple phone app. Nothing has access to the Apple phone app. You should also, and I should mention just, there are laws about recording, and you should check what state you're in, whether it's a single-party or two-party state, and you, in many cases, have to notify. For instance, if I were going to record this call and put it on the air, you're live, and there's a presumption when you call a radio station that you're going to be broadcast live. But if I were going to record this, before I could start recording, I'd have to get your permission because we're in a two-party state. So just be aware of that. So Google Voice is one option. There are three-way call merging apps that you can, when the call comes in, merge it with what, because you have that merge button on the iPhone. You can merge it to a recording app or something like that. But these all cost money. Tape a Call Pro, Call Recorder Pro, and they all require a third party because Apple won't let you do it directly.
Okay, I also have an Android phone. What would I use on that?
Oh, an Android's much easier because Android has not anything goes. So yeah, if you want to do this, it'd be much easier. There's automatic call recorder is a good one. There's a ton of them. This is an easy thing to do because Android doesn't have any of those restrictions. Actually, I'm looking and it looks like maybe in later versions of Android, since Android 9, they have started restricting that. But there are, if you search for call recorders, there's automatic call recorder from Applicato. There's call recorder from Bakasoft. There's a dozen of programs that'll do this. And I don't have any experience, so I don't have any I can, unreservedly recommend. But there certainly are like a dozen choices out there. That's a really good example of the difference between iOS and Android, and really a good example of why you might prefer one over the other. If you're really concerned about security and privacy, probably an iPhone is a better choice, but it limits what you can do. If you want full flexibility and power, Android is a better choice, and this is a perfect example. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Android 9, according to the chat room, took it away, but Android 10 restored it. So there, people probably complained bitterly and said, I want to be able to record. Well, hey, how are you today? Leo Laporte here, the tech guy. Time to talk computers, the internet, home theater, digital photography, smartphones, smartwatches, and sewing machines. 8888 Ask Leo, the phone number. Yeah, so actually sewing machines are pretty high tech now, aren't they? You get those embroidery machines that use a computer to 8888 Ask Leo, the phone number. Website techguylabs.com. We're talking about that because I don't know how I got onto this, but we were talking in the chat room about making your own mask, right? Because you don't want to take masks away from hospital personnel that need them. But maybe if you knew how to sew, you could make your own masks and maybe make masks for friends and family, people like me who don't know how to sew. And then somehow, I don't know how it happened, Dr. Mom talked me into buying a sewing machine from her sister. Her sister has a store in Santa Monica, sewingarts.com. And so she said, just buy this machine. It's easy, Leo. Dr. Mom, in better times, used to go to the Maker Faire and teach people how to sew. So I'm gonna get a Zoom call going with Dr. Mom and my new sewing machine. But I don't know what fabric to get. And this other thing is people are starting to exchange websites for making masks, like ragmask.com. A place that's ultra simple, fast to make, great fitting mask. This guy has to be a new site, right? Unless he's been making masks forever. I don't know. Download instructions. He has a PDF at ragmask.com. Ultra simple, fast to make, great fitting masks. Now that we all have to make masks, why not, huh? 8888 Ask Leo. We'll put, actually, there's a whole bunch of links. And my wife's already ordered some masks from Etsy. These are the people who know what they're doing with this sewing machine. But that'd be, In these end times, we all have to learn some skills. I've been baking bread. I might as well learn how to sew masks. Next stop, I'll be sewing the prom dress for my granddaughter's wedding or something. Harold in West Covina, California is next. Hello, Harold. Leo Laporte, the tech guy.
Good afternoon, Leo.
Good afternoon.
First, I should mention I've been using Remote PC. It works very well and it's inexpensive. It's a great tool.
Thank you. A little plug for our sponsor. Thank you.
Yeah. I'd like to ask you for some cord cutting advice.
Sure.
My 95-year-old father's cable TV shot up to almost $200 a month.
Makes me so angry.
And with some cord cutting, I think I can cut it down to about half that. I was looking at the Fire TV Cube or Roku Ultra with Sling and some add-ons like TCM.
Yeah, Fire TV's fine. The only problem I have with the Amazon devices is they really end up being plugs for Amazon in so many ways, and that kind of bugs me. I'm a big fan of Roku, on the other hand. I think the Roku Ultra is an excellent device. I have them on almost all my TVs. It has many channels you can add. There's a huge choice. The only reason to go... They're really, in my opinion, the high end, there are only two choices. There's Roku and Apple TV. The problem with the Apple TV is, well, the good thing about Apple TV is if he uses Apple products and buys anything on iTunes, then you have to have an Apple TV. It's the only device that'll play that back. But that's the only thing Apple TV offers that Roku doesn't. So if he's not an Apple user and an Apple subscriber, I suspect he's not, the Roku's a good choice. And then there are a number of services that you can get in addition to the Roku. Remember, he's going to still have to pay for internet access, obviously, probably from the cable company. So they still got you for $60 a month. But that's a lot better than $200, isn't it? And then depending on what he wants to watch, you mentioned TCM. There's a TCM channel on there. Generally, a lot of these channels will either require you to have a cable subscription, that's in the case of TCM, or will charge you a monthly fee. And it's pretty easy to get right back up to $200 a month if you're not careful. Netflix is $12 a month, probably worth getting. Here's what I would look at for him. Does he watch local news, local events? In other words, the local channel. Are you still there? Are you still there, Harold? Did I lose you? I guess I lost him. If local events are important to you, I used to say sports, not anymore. But if you want locals, then you're probably going to want to use an over-the-top service that kind of replaces basic cable. And there's a number of these. AT&T offers one. PlayStation closed theirs, shuttered theirs. They used to have the PlayStation Vue, Sony. Sling TV has one. My favorite, though, is from Google. It's YouTube TV, tv.youtube.com. And you can try all of these for free for some number of weeks. YouTube TV is $50 a month. So now you got the $60 for the cable and $50 for YouTube TV. You're already up to $110. But it's got all the local stations. It's got a nice DVR, makes it very easy to record stuff. For instance, I like to watch Jeopardy while I'm sitting on the rowing machine. So I always record the last 5 episodes of Jeopardy. That way it's just there whenever I row. It's very easy to do. You look through the directory. It's got a directory that looks just like your cable guide. You see a show you want, you press the plus button. That's it. It's DVR'd automatically. It has, in addition to locals, it has TCM if he likes old movies. Turner Classic Movies are great. It also has sports. You can watch classic football games on ESPN. It has all the news networks. Probably not good for a 95-year-old to be watching 24-hour news right now. It's just depressing, but there it is. So that's my favorite. I think it's a good cable replacement. But as you can see, we've immediately gotten up to a certain amount of money. If he doesn't care about locals, then it might be worth getting just a couple of packages. For instance, I like old movies on Criterion, the Criterion channel. I think that's like $7 or $8 a month. I bought that for my mom. She also watches BritBox. Again, $7 or $8 a month, and that's British TV shows. So you could put an a la carte system together of the stuff, just the stuff he really likes. It's easy, though. You got to be, you really want to think about it because it's very easy to get it back up to that $200 mark. It's not an accident Cable companies knew this was coming. They knew this was going to happen, so they've raised slowly over, the past few years. They've raised the cost of the internet. And remember, he'll pay more for the internet if he's not getting the TV bundle. They've raised the cost of the individual subscriptions to HBO and Showtime. By the time you're all done, it wouldn't be hard to get it back up to $200. But I think it also is kind of satisfying to be able to say, stick it to the man, right? My recommendation is absolutely. Harold's back on line 3. There we go.
Still there, Leo?
Yes. All right. Sorry about that.
Well,
yeah.
One of the other needs I have is my father's eyesight's not that good, and he finds it very difficult to use the sling when I gave him a little demonstration.
Yeah.
The thing I was thinking about the Fire TV Cube and possibly the Roku Ultra is voice command.
Oh, yeah, that's very nice. And I use the voice command on the Roku, and it works quite well. He'll still, unfortunately, probably need to click things. One way to do that would be get him a TV that, a bigger TV if you want, that he could see a little bit better maybe.
Yeah, I was thinking about that too.
Yeah. There's also on Roku, there's things like Locast, which for free give you local. There are free services like Tubi, Tubi, that you can get a lot of content. If he's not too discriminating and he doesn't mind ads, there's a ton of content out there for free.
Yes.
Yeah. But if he says, no, I want to see, some great World War II movies or something, which I happen to like, then you might have to subscribe to TCM or something like that.
Yeah, he really likes the movies.
I love TCM. Yeah, I can't wait to retire and just sit and watch movies. That's my goal in life, and eat Snickers bars. I'll be happy. Tub of popcorn by my side, put my feet up. So there's a lot of good choices. I think the Roku Ultra would be my clear choice. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, thank you.
My pleasure. Thanks for calling, helping your dad out. Leo Laporte, the tech guy, adding a little soul to technology. 8888. Ask Leo. Irene from Dana Point, California is next. Hi, Irene.
Hi, Leo. Thank you for letting me get in there.
Well, I'm glad you got in, of course. You don't have to thank me. That's what I'm here for.
You're as popular as the government website.
It is true that the lines do get tied up. I apologize.
Yeah. I'm calling in the hopes that you or someone in your vast audience has some kind of pull with Microsoft because, well, I'm one of the holdouts. I have Windows 7 on my desktop. And especially now financially, as a self-employed single person, financially buying a new computer is just out of the question.
I don't blame you. Yeah, now is a terrible time to do it. Yeah.
It's a terrible time, and for health reasons and just for, existence, my internet is a lifeline.
Yes.
And like pretty much everybody these days.
Yes.
And I would like to propose to Microsoft that they reinstate support for Windows 7 through the end of the year.
Not going to happen, Vera. Not going to happen. I'm so sorry. Did you talk to my wife?
Yes, I did.
Yeah, she mentioned you called. And in fact, I was going to respond. I wish we had pull with Microsoft, but even if we did, there's no way in the world Microsoft's going to do that. That's just not going to happen. However, it's not the end of the line here, because one thing Microsoft has done without telling anybody, but we've all discovered it, is they've maintained the ability to upgrade it to Windows 10 for free.
Yeah. I'm just reluctant to do that because I'm not that tech savvy, and my computer's a few years old, and if something went wrong and I lost everything, I would be. I
understand. Yeah.
I'd be up there without a canoe to mind the paddle.
I mean, to be honest, you can continue to use Windows 7 if you're prudent. It's not that it's not going to stop working at any time soon. It's just that you're not going to get potentially vital security updates. The truth is, Microsoft is still pushing them out, and I think perhaps due to the crisis, is likely to continue to push out the most important security updates. They had 2 problems with Windows 7, which they fixed even after the deadline in January. So it's fine to continue to use it, certainly through the end of the year. I wouldn't worry too much. You just got to be careful. You do all the sensible things, and I'm sure, but you want to make sure that even without getting updates, that you're updating whatever you have on Windows 10 or Windows 7, including Microsoft's Security Essentials. They're continuing to update that. That's your antivirus. You're updating your browsers, anything that goes online. Those are still being kept up to date, whatever you're using. So, in fact, I would recommend at this point maybe using Firefox as your browser, because they're going to keep that up to date for another 1.5 years at least. Google Chrome.
I already do.
Good.
I already do that.
Good. You're much safer then. Yeah. I think you're probably, as long as you do your updates. And then the other thing, of course, and this is a harder one, but you've got to use your noggin and be careful about what you download and install on the machine. This would be a bad time if you're running Windows 7 to install anything new. You should be very careful not to install anything offered to you. So if there's a link or you see a pop-up that says, oh, you need to get the newest version of Flash or the newest version of this or that, do not click those links. Those are bad guys trying to get you to install software. In order to get you to hack your system, they've got to install malware. Generally, they have to get you to run a program. So you've got to... Go ahead.
I'm sorry. I keep getting pop-ups to update Adobe. What is it?
Those may be legitimate, but the way to do it is not to click. If you see a link, somebody's offering you a link in Messenger, on email, in a pop-up, do not click those links. Open up Firefox, go to adobe.com, and manually by yourself, because then you're really on adobe.com. What'll happen is they'll do a pop-up saying, oh, you need to update Flash, and click this link, pretending to be Adobe, but that link doesn't lead to Adobe. It leads to a malware site. So you want to do it manually.
Yeah, I hope I haven't already done that, because I keep getting those notices. It's not through email. It just pops up when I...
So from now on, just ignore those and go by hand. If it's Adobe Reader, go by hand to Adobe's Reader site and download it from them. And then you're getting the real deal, not if somebody came up to you on the street and said, hey, you don't have to go to the grocery store. I got broccoli right here. Don't buy it. You wouldn't buy it from them. That's kind of what they're doing.
Yeah.
Right? So go to get.adobe.com and you can download it from them. If you really do need an update, they'll have it there, and you'll be getting it from the real deal, from the grocery store, not from some guy on the street.
Yeah, I don't want...
no, you don't.
Tainted broccoli.
No tainted broccoli for me. So all of this means you can, if you're judicious, if you're prudent, if you're really a little paranoid, it's okay to be a little paranoid in this case, continue to use Windows 7. At some point, installing Windows 10, we have instructions on how to do it at Microsoft. It's not too hard, but you're right. There's always a risk, infinitesimal but big, non-zero, but that something will mess up and you'll lose your computer. This is my big problem is nobody should have bought Windows. Nobody should have bought Windows. Everybody did, because that's what you had at work. It's what everybody was buying. But you see, the problem right now is you're at risk. If you were using a Chromebook or an iPad, you wouldn't have to worry about this. So, but that's okay. You got Windows. I don't want you to have to change anything. Just be prudent, and you should be okay. Unfortunately, there's no way Microsoft's changing their policy. Leo Laporte, the tech guy, 8888 Ask Leo. You remember we were talking last hour, we were talking to the guy about, I can't remember his name, but about the fact that he couldn't print, or rather couldn't share files between his Windows XP and his Windows 10 machine and his Windows 7 machine. This is a perfect example of how things get aged out, and suddenly you can't do some things. Now, in this case, it was a really good reason that Microsoft aged out its old networking protocol, SMB, Server Message Block 1.0, because the NSA, National Security Agency, had found a flaw in SMB 1.0 and was using it to attack, to spy on people, to attack networks, to get into networks. They didn't tell anybody about it, but as often is the case with an exploit, the NSA didn't keep it to themselves. A contractor took it home. The contractor himself had an antivirus on his system from Russia, Kaspersky. We think, nobody knows for sure, but we think that antivirus saw the SMB exploit that the NSA had invented but was not publicly known, said, oh, this is interesting. Let's send this back to home office in Moscow. They sent it back. They quarantined it and sent it back. And because Kaspersky has relationships with the Secret Service in Russia, they sent it to the Secret Service, and the Russians said, oh boy, we got no exploits. And it leaked out, and all the bad guys got it. The exploit was called Eternal Blue, took advantage of SMB1. And then as it leaked out, it started being used by ransomware. WannaCry and Petya, the ransomware that spread like wildfire a couple of years ago, it used that to get over onto your network because people had SMB 1.0 networks, or they had networks, Windows networks. SMB 1 was there. You got it, an employee came in with his laptop with Petya on there or WannaCry on there, and WannaCry said, oh, I'm on network with SMB 1.0. Oh boy, party time, and spread out to the whole network, took whole companies to their knees. So you see the chain here. Microsoft, flawed system. NSA found the flaw, didn't tell anybody. Certainly didn't tell Microsoft because they were using it to spy on people. But they also didn't keep a lid on it. It leaked out. Bad guys got it. Ransomware ripped through the whole world, causing billions, maybe trillions of dollars in damages. Microsoft says, oi. They say, no more SMB 1.0. They turn it off in Windows 10. But now our caller can't network with his XP machine. You can turn 1.0 on in Windows 10. Be very careful if you do, because now you're open to Eternal Blue. What a world we live in. So this is one of the reasons Microsoft says after a while, look, you got to stop using these old versions of Windows. XP died years ago. Windows 7 died in January. They said, we're not going to fix it. Please upgrade. But then you see people like Vera, our caller. She's using Windows. She doesn't have the resources to buy a new computer, and she's not sophisticated enough to upgrade it for herself. And this is the point I really think is important to make. Windows is designed for businesses with IT professionals at their beck and call. If Vera were at work, she'd say, hey, I need a Windows 10 system. And the IT guy would come over with his keys on the keychain. You know how they jingle when they come over. And he'd say, yeah, get out of my way. And he'd fix it. That's what Windows is designed for. It's not designed for Vera. It's not designed for most people. It's not designed for a home user unless you, as a home user, are a serious nerd and you're willing to say, I'm going to learn all of this stuff. And you know what? Most of the people listening to this show, certainly all the people in the chat room, they know how to upgrade to Windows 10. But okay, fine. If maybe you're a gamer, maybe you have a reason that you need Windows on your systems at home. But if you don't have an IT department, don't buy Windows unless you're willing to make the commitment to keep it secure, to learn how to keep it up to date. Friends shouldn't let friends buy Windows. It's a bad idea. It is a horrifically flawed operating system. It's not getting better. In many ways, I would submit it's getting worse. And in general, and it's not just Windows, Mac too, any general purpose operating system is going to have the potential that you could download and install software that would do bad things because it's general purpose. It's designed for you to install whatever the heck you want. That's why Apple locks down iOS. It says, no, you can only install stuff we approve from the App Store. They're starting to do that on Mac OS. Microsoft ought to do it on Windows, but they never will because Windows is designed for people with IT departments. And the IT department says, the heck with that. We want to install whatever we want. We know what we're doing. But that's the point. They know what they're doing. If you're not an IT professional, if you're not willing to learn how to keep Windows secure, it's a very bad idea to have that operating system. I don't use it anymore. I really don't. And I know how to keep it safe. It's not worth the trouble. It breaks. It's so fragile. It's so old. It's fragile. It's a house of cards. You will have a problem with it. If you don't need a general purpose operating system, and most people don't, then go get an iPad, which will do everything you want it to do, or go get a Chromebook, which will do probably for most people everything you want it to do, unless you're a gamer or you're designing rocket ships, or maybe you're a movie film editor, maybe you're a graphics designer. There are some people who need full purpose operating systems. Most of us don't. If most of what you can do, including email and shopping and staying in touch with friends, video conferencing, that kind of thing, if it can be done in a browser, it can be done on a Chromebook. And look at an iPad, for crying out loud. They start at $329. They're secure. They'll do most of what anybody wants to do. I would bet you almost anything, including editing movies, doing photography. If you have more needs, I guess you can get a fancier iPad like an iPad Pro. But please don't buy Windows. Please. We need to stop the madness. It started because everybody used it at work and you didn't have much choice, really. I mean, it wasn't until recently it was Windows or Mac. That was the choice. Now we have mobile operating systems that are inherently much more secure. Even Android's more secure than Windows. And it's not very secure. Apple's done a very good job of locking down iOS. I think it's a good choice. If you need a more general purpose system, Macintosh. I took all my Windows machines and put Linux on them, but I know what I'm doing. I actually think Linux is a better operating system. It's more reliable. It's better designed than Windows, but it does require a certain amount of skill. Most people should be using a Chromebook, inherently secure, inherently safe, or they should be using an iPad or some iOS device. That's what you need. And it'll do what almost all of us would need to do. So when I Vera was so desperate, she called my wife. I don't know how she got her number. She called my wife. She said, "Can you get Leo to call Microsoft and tell him to keep Windows 7 around for the rest of the year?" I wish I could. There is no way in the world Microsoft is going to back down on that one. No way in the world. It's just not going to happen. I could call Satya Nadella, the CEO, and say, "Hey, Satya, buddy, it's your friend. It's your old friend Leo. Would you do me a favor, Satya? Let's just keep Windows 7 around for the rest of the year. Just because of COVID. It'd be a nice thing to do." He'd say, "No way, Leo. What are you, crazy? I got a company to run here. Bye." It's just not going to happen. But folks, do yourself a favor. Don't be Vera in 10 years. Don't buy a Windows PC. That's just nuts. Buy an iPad, buy a Chromebook. Okay? And if you want to be more sophisticated, okay, maybe you can get Windows, but just understand the responsibility, the burden is on you. And when it breaks, you're going to have to fix it. And don't call me because I don't want to help you. I told you not to buy that. What are you doing? What are you, nuts? 8888 asked Leo. I know a lot of people disagree with this, but it's finally, I've snapped. I'd snap. When Vera called my wife and said, "Please, let's get Microsoft to save Windows 7, I realized this insanity has to stop. Don't be Vera. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Thank you. I'm sorry I went off on Windows. Please don't hate me, Microsoft. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Thanks very much to Lady Laura spinning the disc, risking her life to dig through the record library for deep tracks for our show. Thank you, Lady Laura, our musical director. Thank you to Kim Schaffer, also risking her life, braving the COVID to come into the studio and answer the phone. Don't cough on her, please, because we need her. Thank you, Kim Schaffer. Most of all, thanks to you. Please stay safe. We don't want to lose anybody. This is we appreciate your listening. I appreciate your listening to the show and calling in and becoming a part of the Tech Guy family. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. We have time for a few more calls. Let me get in. Jim in Oneida, New York. Hello, Jim.
Hey, Leo.
Welcome.
Hey, thank you. Listen to you forever. Got a question of a friend having trouble getting to his email.
Yeah.
So he uses Yahoo as his email client, but he uses his Verizon account for his actual email. And last week, he suddenly got a message that says, "Uh-oh, we can't sign you in right now. Try again in a while." The weird thing is, so we checked configurations and all this.
Does he log in to Yahoo to do
Yes.
this? Okay. And it said, we can't log you in. By the way, Verizon owns Yahoo, so it's not even as weird as it sounds.
I just learned that. Yeah, I was searching around.
So he's trying to log in at Yahoo. It goes to yahoo.com, tries to sign in, or mailed at yahoo.com. And it says, sorry, we can't log you in?
It says, we can't sign you in right now. Try again in a while.
What? I never heard of that. Okay.
So we put in a wrong password, and it says invalid password.
Right.
So
it's him.
Recognizing the password, right. But the weird thing is his wife, who is set up the same way, she uses Verizon, her Verizon account to get into Yahoo, gets in just fine.
So has he, one issue might be, because I'm just signing in right now to Yahoo, and I notice instead of asking for a password, it's saying, we want to send you a text message.
Well, he set this up 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And back then they didn't do that. So
no.
He doesn't have I'm
wondering if it's related. Does he get select an option to sign in and because one of the options is another email address.
Right, which he didn't set up.
So it has no other way to do that. And it's continued to do that?
It's been doing that for a week. He came over yesterday and had a bunch of things. I'm pretty tech savvy and just could not figure it out. Looked at SMT and POP and all that and
no, it's not that, because the issue isn't email at all. The issue is logging into Yahoo, right?
I think it's Verizon.
Well, I don't think so. So when he goes...
Let me throw this out at you.
Okay.
So I tried to set up an email account for him in Thunderbird using his Verizon account.
Let me understand first before you go any farther.
Okay.
Is he doing this in a browser? He's going to Yahoo, mail.yahoo.com in his browser?
In his browser.
Okay, so it has nothing to do with Verizon at this point. There is no Verizon involved.
All right.
Even if Verizon's his ISP, that has nothing to do with it. Can he go to just plain old yahoo.com?
No, same thing.
Same thing. So that's the problem. The problem right now is his Yahoo account. Here's the good news. You saying he's using his Verizon email address.
Yes.
Joey@verizon.net.
Right.
So he can still log in and get his email at Verizon. He doesn't have to go to Yahoo to get his email.
We tried that. We couldn't figure out how to do that. Is there a special... Because, he can log into Verizon. The reason... Let me throw this out. He gets the same exact problem when he tries to get it from his iPhone Mail app.
Yeah. Okay, what does he get when he goes to iPhone Mail? It says, I can't get your mail right now?
It's probably something like that. I didn't look at it that closely.
So I think you're conflating two different things unnecessarily.
Okay.
So what he's done, I gather, is he's a Verizon customer, and his email address is a Verizon email address.
It is.
And what he's done is he's set it up to get, and this was easy at one point because Verizon owns Yahoo, to have it flow into Yahoo Mail instead of getting it through Verizon.
Okay.
Now, Verizon, I think at some point moved Verizon Net to Yahoo Mail. So there may not be another way to get his email. But at this point, the problem is not Verizon. The problem is Yahoo. Admittedly owned by Verizon, so it's related. For some reason, he can't get into his Yahoo account. And that's another issue entirely.
Right, okay.
Actually, I think what Verizon now does is they've moved it to AOL. He might look... I know.
Okay.
I know.
Okay.
First of all, he should... Once he solves this, at some point, I hope he will, he should get the hell away from that. And just get an email account somewhere else. If you want free, Google Mail is fine, Gmail.
Right.
Maybe better yet to buy email from. I use Fast Mail. It's not expensive. There are a lot of email providers out there. Get as far away from Yahoo and Verizon and AOL as you possibly can. I know he's had it for 20 years, and what he's going to say is, but everybody knows that address. You can have mail forwarding from that address for some time, and then tell everybody as you get the mail, hey, by the way, use this new address. But you really do want to get it. This is a mess that Verizon has created because they own all three of these, right?
Okay.
I think he should be able to get his Verizon email from AOL.com. In other words, I don't know if he has to use.
Okay.
I don't know if he has to use Yahoo. Clearly, something's gone wrong with his Yahoo account. My guess is that Yahoo detected suspicious activity and has, for some reason, deactivated his account. It's a weird message, but he clearly...
It is, but if he puts in his wrong password, it says invalid password. So,
yeah. No, that's his. It's him. They're targeting him. They're saying, no, you can't get in. And my guess is that he can't get in because of some odd, these are all automatic. It doesn't even mean anything. It's
so if he sets up AOL, uses that as an email client, and
try that. You can do it at AOL.com, mail.aol.com, and log in as.
Tried with Thunderbird, and it didn't.
No. At this point, you want to do it in a browser to eliminate these issues, just to see if you can get in. So go to mail.aol.com and try to sign in.
Why you don't think why don't you think Thunderbird?
Okay, so it's a different system. There's webmail, and then there is IMAP. And if he's having, what credentials does he use to set it up in Thunderbird? Is it a Verizon credential or is it a Yahoo credential?
It's Verizon credentials.
And that doesn't work either.
He gets an unable login at servers.
Oh, he needs to call Verizon. He needs to call Verizon then.
That's what we figured.
Yep. Something bad's happened. Sounds like they've deactivated his account, to be honest.
Could be. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
That's a weird situation. And as I said, anybody who's still using AOL, Verizon, or Yahoo for their mail, run. Do not walk. Get a better system. Now, the long run, the best thing to do, by the way, is to get a domain name, a dedicated domain name. And you can do that. You can go to a lot of places you can go. It's $10 a year in most cases. You go to a registrar. Google has domains. I use hover.com, but there are a variety of places. You buy a domain name, last name, .email or lastname.com or whatever you want. And in all of these cases, you can say, and now any email that comes to that address gets forwarded to, then you can make it Gmail. I think Gmail is perfectly good because it's free, does anti-spam. And then that way, from now on, you give out that one address. And if you move from a provider to provider, you say, I don't like Gmail anymore. I want to go to Fastmail. You just change the redirect. Everything continues as before. You don't have to change your address. It's having a permanent email address, and I like that. Everybody, stay safe. Wear your masks. Socially distance. We want you back. We want you healthy. Thank you for listening. I'm Leo Laporte, the Tech Guy. Have a safe Geek Week. Well, that's it for the Tech Guy Show for today. Thank you so much for being here. And don't forget, TWIT, T-W-I-T. It stands for This Week in Tech, and you'll find it at twit.tv, including the podcasts for this show. We talk about Windows on Windows Weekly, Macintosh on MacBreak Weekly, iPads, iPhones, Apple Watches on iOS Today, security on Security Now. I mean, I can go on and on and on. And, of course, the big show every Sunday afternoon, This Week in Tech. You'll find it all at twit.tv. And I'll be back next week with another great Tech Guys show. Thanks for joining me. We'll see you next time.